The trust field. How to ask for sensitive info at checkout without scaring buyers away. Every extra question at checkout is a tiny trust test. Here's how to pass it every time. The moment you add a field to your checkout that asks for something personal, a shipping address, a birth date for a coaching intake, a health note before a fitness plan, a phone number for a live webinar reminder, you've introduced a split second of doubt into a transaction that was, up until then, running on pure impulse. That doubt is not irrational. Buyers have been trained by a decade of sketchy pop-ups and data breaches to treat any unexplained request for personal information as a red flag. Your job isn't to avoid asking. Plenty of great products genuinely need that extra detail to be delivered well. Your job is to ask in a way that reads as care instead of curiosity, so the request builds trust instead of burning it. Why one extra question can tank a sale? Think about the psychological state a buyer is in right before checkout. They've already decided to trust you enough to hand over money. That's the biggest ask you'll ever make. But money is an abstract, familiar transaction. Apple Pay and Google Pay have made it nearly frictionless. And most people don't consciously weigh the risk of a card charge anymore. Personal information is different. It's concrete, it's permanent once it's out, and it doesn't come with a dispute button the way a bad charge does. A shipping address feels riskier than a $47 charge to a lot of buyers, even though it's objectively lower stakes, simply because it's unfamiliar territory in that specific checkout flow. When you add a field with zero context, just a bare label like phone number sitting above an input box, you're forcing the buyer to fill in the blank themselves. Why do they need this? What happens to it? Am I about to get spam calls? Most won't ask. They'll just quietly close the tab. This is why the products that need the most sensitive info, coaching intakes, health and fitness plans, physical shipping, anything involving a real name tied to a real address, are also the ones where framing does the heaviest lifting. A vague field costs you sales you'll never even see in your analytics, because the buyer never reaches an error state to explain. They just vanish between interested and paid. And if you're not watching for it, you'll misdiagnose it as a pricing problem or a traffic problem when it was really a trust problem sitting one screen deep. The three-part formula: reason, scope, reassurance. Every sensitive field on your checkout should be accompanied by a short helper line that does 3 specific jobs. Skip any one of them, and the doubt creeps back in. State the reason be in plain language, why this exact field exists for this exact product. State the scope, what it will and won't be used for, and who sees it. Add a one-line reassurance. What happens if they'd rather not share, or how it's protected? Here's the difference in practice. A bare field says, home address. A trust-framed field says, shipping address. This is only used to mail your printed workbook, never shared or used for anything else. Same field, same data collected, wildly different emotional read. The first one makes the buyer do detective work under time pressure. The second one answers the question before it's asked, which is exactly what a good salesperson does in person. They never let you sit in silence wondering why they need something. The one-sentence test. If you can't write a single, honest sentence explaining why a field exists, that's a sign to cut the field, not a sign to write a vaguer one. Sequencing. Ask for money trust before personal trust. Field order isn't cosmetic, it's a trust ramp. Buyers build confidence incrementally through a checkout, and the fields you show first set the tone for how comfortable they feel by the time they hit the sensitive ones. Lead with the familiar and low stakes. Name, email, the payment method itself. These are things every checkout on the internet asks for, so they don't trigger hesitation. Only after that initial rhythm is established should custom fields asking for anything more personal appear. Phone number for a live session, dietary notes for a retreat, current weight for a fitness program, a shipping address for a physical add-on. By the time a buyer reaches those, they've already typed their real name and real email into your form without incident, which quietly signals this checkout is legitimate before you've said a word about it. The reverse order, sensitive field first, payment last, reads as a form you have to get through before you're allowed to buy, which is a completely different emotional experience than a purchase you're excited about. It's the same logic behind why good coaches ask easy rapport-building questions before the hard ones. Sequence the vulnerability, don't front-load it. Required versus optional. Say what you mean. A field marked required should be genuinely load-bearing. You truly cannot deliver the product or service without it. Everything else should be optional, and optional needs to actually feel optional. A lot of checkouts technically allow you to skip a field, but visually shame you into filling it anyway with red asterisks on everything or copy like strongly recommended stacked on 3 fields in a row. That's a fake choice, and sharp buyers notice. If a field is genuinely nice to have, an Instagram handle so you can tag them in a testimonial, a birthday for a future discount, say so directly. Totally optional just helps us personalize your experience. Buyers who feel a real choice are more likely to volunteer information than buyers who feel cornered into one, which is a little counterintuitive but consistently true. Permission increases disclosure. Pressure decreases it. Building it inside store.fan. Custom checkout fields on store.fan support plain text, longer text areas, checkboxes, radio buttons, and drop-downs, and you can mark any of them required or optional per product. The label itself is where all this psychology actually lives. The field type is just the container. Instead of naming a field, notes, write the label as the reassurance itself. Anything your coach should know before your first session, kept private, optional. You get the same data, structured the same way in your customer list, but the buyer reads a completely different intent behind it. This is a 5-minute edit that regularly recovers sales you didn't know you were losing, and it costs nothing to test. Swap a label, watch your checkout completion for the next batch of orders, and compare. It's also worth remembering why this level of polish is worth your time at all. Every field, every label, every ounce of friction sits between a follower who already decided to trust you and the moment that trust turns into revenue in your own Stripe or PayPal account. If you haven't set that up yet, you can create your store and connect payouts in one click. Check a live example store to see how a real creator lays out products, fields, and checkout end-to-end before you build your own. A checkout field is a tiny conversation. Treat it like one, not like a form. The pre-launch trust audit. Before you add a new sensitive field to any product, run it through this quick checklist. It takes less time than writing the field itself, and it's the difference between a field that converts and one that quietly bleeds sales. Can you write one honest sentence explaining why this field exists? Does the label include that reason, not just the data you're collecting? Is it marked required only if the product genuinely can't be delivered without it? If optional, does the copy make skipping field genuinely fine? Is it placed after name mail payment, not before? Would you feel comfortable filling this out on a stranger's checkout from a stranger's link? Quick win. If a field has ever made you personally hesitate on your own storefront, it will make a buyer hesitate too. And buyers are far less patient with you than you are with yourself. What this actually protects: your revenue. It's tempting to file this under nice-to-have polish, but sensitive fields sit at some of your highest-value checkout moments. Coaching, memberships, physical products, live events, which tend to be your higher-ticket offers. Losing even a small percentage of buyers at this exact step is disproportionately expensive compared to losing the same percentage on a $9 template. If your fitness coaching intake asks for weight, injuries, and a phone number with 0 framing, and you lose 1 in 5 buyers right there, that's real monthly income walking away over a missing sentence of copy. Fixing the framing is one of the highest leverage 5-minute edits available to you. Right alongside checking your Pro Plan features like custom fields and discount codes are actually switched on for the products that need them. None of this requires new technology. Store.fan already gives you the field types and the placement control you need. What it requires is treating every label as a tiny piece of copywriting instead of an afterthought. Because that sentence is standing between a follower who trusts you enough to buy and the information you need to actually deliver a great experience. Get the framing right once per product, and it keeps paying off on every single order after that. If you want more tactics like this, the blog has guides on checkout speed, pricing, and delivery that pair well with this one. Key takeaways. Cart abandonment at the info request stage is almost always a framing problem, not a privacy problem. Every sensitive field needs 3 things next to it: a reason, a scope, and a reassurance order matters. Ask for money-adjacent trust, name, email, before asking for personal trust, health, address, phone. Optional fields should look genuinely optional, not guilt-tripped into being filled. The fields you build with a hashboard custom checkout fields are only as good as the sentence sitting above them. Start your creator store free at store.fan.